In this problem right here, we're going to take the general form of a conic section and we're going to rewrite it in standard form. The first thing we're going to do is try to figure out what kind of a conic section are we talking about. Well, since I have two squared terms, I know that I'm talking about an ellipse, a circle, or a hyperbola. And then since the signs are different on those two squared terms, that means we're talking about a hyperbola. So that's probably the first thing I want to write down, just so I don't lose track of what it is I'm trying to accomplish. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to combine my x terms together and my y terms together, and I'm going to subtract 68 and put it on the other side. So here are my x terms, here are my y terms. I'm going to need to complete the square to get it into the standard form. To do so, I'm going to need to factor out 9 from each of my x terms. So factoring out 9, I end up with x squared plus 4x. And I'm going to factor out negative 4 from each of my y terms. So I end up with y squared plus 2y. And that's equal to negative 68. Then I can go ahead and complete the square. To complete the square on my x terms, I'm going to take half of 4, which is 2, and then I'm going to square it, which is 4. I'm going to take half of 2, which is 1, and then square it, and that'll be 1. So I'll be adding 4 inside my x parentheses, I'll be adding 1 inside of my y parentheses. 9 times the quantity x squared plus 4x plus 4 minus 4 times y squared plus 2y plus 1. That's going to be equal to negative 68. Now remember, I've added something here on the left side. I added a 4 and I added 1. But each of these numbers that I have inside the parenthesis is multiplied by the number I have outside the parenthesis. So I added 4 inside, but I have to take that 4 and I have to multiply it by 9. So in actuality, I added 36 in this first quantity. Then I added a 1 in here, and this 1 has to be multiplied by negative 4. So I actually subtracted 4 on the left. I'm going to need to subtract 4 on the right. I can go ahead and factor these perfect square trinomials. When I do that, I'm going to end up with squared binomials. Notice that when I'm writing my squared binomial, the middle, the term, or the operation is going to be the same as it is for your middle term. And then the second term is the square root of whatever you added. And then I'm going to combine negative 68, positive 36, and negative 4, which gives me negative 36. Now to get this into standard form, I need to have a 1 on the right side of the equation. So I'm going to go ahead and divide every term by negative 36 on both sides of my equation. When I do that, I have a common factor of 9 and a common factor of 4. So I end up with x plus 2 quantity squared over negative 4. Here I have a negative and a negative. That's going to give me a positive y plus 1 quantity squared over 9, and that's going to be equal to 1. So notice I had the negative here, and these two negatives ended up making it a positive. So to be in standard form, I want my positive term first, y plus 1 quantity squared over 9 minus x plus 2 quantity squared over 4 equal to 1. So this tells me, since my y term is first, that we're talking about a vertical hyperbola. It's going to have center at negative 2, negative 1. So be careful when you're looking at the centers on these that you look at the x binomial first and then the y binomial. I know that my vertices are going to be up and down in the y direction from my center. So I know I'm going to be at negative 2, negative 1, and then I'm going to take the square root of 9, which is plus or minus 3. So that gives me vertices at -2, 2, or -2, -4. Then for my foci, I need to take the equation c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared, which is 9 plus 4. So c squared is going to be equal to 13. C will be equal to the square root of 13. And don't forget the plus and minus. So then my foci are going to have coordinates -2, -1, plus or minus the square root of 13. They're in the same direction as the vertices. And then I can separate them, -2, -1 plus the square root of 13, -2, -1 minus the square root of 13. Next, I'm going to need to find my asymptotes. So the equations of my asymptotes are going to be in the form of whatever I have for my y binomial, y plus 1, and that is going to be equal to my x binomial, x plus 2, and then the coefficient is going to be the y. So what's underneath the y? So this is your a. It's going to be a over b, which ends up being 3 over 2. I'm now going to take this information and put it onto a graph. First thing I want to do is show where my center is at for my hyperbola. And my center is at -2, -1. So -2, -1. I'm just going to put a little plus sign there. From that, I'm going to be able to figure out where my vertices are. -2, 2. So -2, 2 is my one vertice, and -2, -4 is my other vertice. My transverse axes, I know that I'm going to be going in the x direction, my b amount, which is plus or minus 2. So I need to have that point figured out so I can draw my asymptotes correctly. So using my transverse axis and my major axis, I know that I can then draw a rectangle going through those b points and your a points. Using that, I can then draw the diagonals of these rectangles, of this rectangle, and it's need to go through my center too. And then I can go ahead and draw my hyperbola, and remember it's a vertical hyperbola, and this is what it's going to look like. And then if I want to go ahead and include my foci, I can. One foci is going to be at -2, 2.6, so that's about right in there. That's another foci, one foci. And then the second foci is going to be at -2, -4.6. So about right there.